I remember walking through a school one day. It was a high school, and on the wall I saw the acronym THINK, T-H-I-N-K. It said think before you speak, and every letter stood for a word. As I looked at it, I realized think applies to speaking as well. And every letter you're going to pick up here gives you a word to remember when you create your stories, when you speak, to make sure that you definitely think before you utter the words of your speech. For T, ask yourself, is it truthful? When you create your story, ask yourself, is this something that actually happened to me, or am I embellishing the details to impress the crowd? Understand that the best stories to tell are ones that actually happen to you in the way that they happened. Sure, you can play with little details like putting in a time for specificity. Little things don't matter, but overall, keep the gist of the story true. Don't try to impress your crowd. Just share who you are, and that's enough. H is for hurtful. Ask yourself, is there something in my speech that can hurt or be emotionally damaging to anyone in my crowd? And you may not be thinking that you're going to say something like that. You're thinking to yourself, of course I wouldn't say something that would offend anyone. But you never know. There's things that you say that may be inadvertently offensive to someone without you even realizing. I was sitting in a room listening to a speaker, and the speaker mentioned that she was in the US somewhere, I don't remember where exactly, and there was someone who couldn't even fit through the doorway, and she was saying that the person was overweight. And sure, that person wasn't in the audience when she told that speech, but I remember when I heard her say that line, I looked over very slyly, making sure I wasn't noticed. I looked over at some of the people who are a bit more overweight in the audience, and you could see that they kind of shrunk down. They didn't like or feel comfortable with what was said, and the speaker went right on talking, didn't even notice. If there's something that might be hurtful to someone, look at the words that you're saying, and if it's something that is going to be offensive even to one person, understand you're going to lose that person, and over time, if you don't pay attention to that, you can lose people in your crowd that you were meant to help if you just said one line differently. So watch that. Is something hurtful in your speech? I is for indecent. Some people like dirty jokes, some people like clean jokes. When you tell a joke or have a story that you tell to your audience, make sure that you know your audience. There are some things you can get away with. Overall, pass your story, pass your jokes through what I call the mom test. If your mother was sitting in the audience, or your grandmother, whoever, someone that you value their opinion of you, would you tell that same story or that same joke? Passing your content through that test will tell you, should I put it into my speech or not? Sure, there are times when you may have a more rowdy crowd and you may be able to get away with something. Just be very aware. Is what I'm going to say decent or indecent? And put that as your litmus test as to whether you're going to use that content in your speech. Next, and is it necessary? Now, this is when it comes to storytelling. I've heard speakers and I've coached speakers that tell a story with so much detail, every single detail of the story. And there was a speaker that I worked with recently, actually, who had a story that was about 2 or 3 minutes long, but all of the essential elements of the story could be narrowed down to about 30 seconds. As speakers, sometimes we give too much information. You need information to give your audience a picture of your story, but when you give them too many details, you lose them. So ask yourself, is what I'm saying necessary? And really hone down to the core parts of the story, what's actually necessary to move the story forward. And finally, K is for, is it kind? When you share your message, when you share your lesson with your audience, yes, you want to challenge them, but you want them to feel empowered and uplifted when they leave. I've heard speakers that just pound messages into their audience and they leave them overwhelmed. They leave them feeling almost worse than when they came in because they've put so much on them that they feel heavy, rained on. challenge your audience while empowering them, and do it in a kind way that makes them think not, oh, he's preaching down to me, but he's trying to lift me up to his level as well. Be kind with the way you deliver your message. Remember those 5 words. Ask yourself, is what I'm saying truthful? Is it hurtful? Is it indecent? Is it necessary? And is it kind? And you will create stories and speeches that put you far ahead of other speakers. Keep speaking, sharing, serving, and I'll see you soon. And remember, if you got value from this video, go right down below the video, click here to subscribe.